I was doing some preparation before we're live now. Welcome everyone. I was just doing
Right.
some preparation because I got some exhibits for you today, and I got interrupted. As inconvenient as it is, I got interrupted by one of my business colleagues about some business stuff that we're doing, so I didn't get to prepare everything that I had this hunch I'm going to go ahead and prepare. So anyway, I got a few exhibits for you, but not as many as I would like. We will get on that in just a moment. But before we do that, welcome everyone to our Success Mastermind for whatever day this is, 20 November 2020. Friday, fun Friday. And let's see who we got joining us here today. Too many windows open. Let's see what we got. Gallery view. Hey, Adrian, Coila, Mark, Nikki. Good to see you as always, Gail, Bill, Jane Akinyulu, one of my favorite people on planet Earth and beyond. Evelyn, Ego, good to see Coral. Sandy's got is that Fuji? Is that Mount Fuji? It's a mountain.
No,
There's
that's down the road. It's from me. It's what I see every day. It's Mount Rainier.
Oh, Rainier. Oh, right. Of course. I should have known that. Thank you. It was a very small picture, at least as I'm looking at it. Hey, Allie and Jamie, Jane, Stella, Caroline, Ivier, Toba's here. Daisy's in the woods as usual. We got Cyril, Sandra, Khalid, and welcome Lindsay and everyone else. Caroline, everyone else I cannot see on my screen at this moment. We are going to have some fun today. Who's got a joke? Who's going to get us started right on this fun Friday? A joke, maybe a dog, something we can look at.
I got a joke.
Yeah, come on, Mark. Give us something good.
So, what did the flight instructor say to his kamikaze pilots when he was training them?
Oh, boy. I have no idea.
Said, watch closely because I'm only going to do this once.
That is good. There you go. Good times. All right. Anybody else? Let's get somebody else out here. Where's Dave? Dave's usually got something to say. Dave is not here yet. Oh, my goodness. Well, for those of you joining us on the interwebs, on YouTube or Facebook, we are glad you're here, tuning in as well. This is just one of the many things that we do throughout our week. I know we've got some other microphones unmuted. Gail or Nikki, did you have something you wanted to offer?
No.
No, you just wanted to make us know that you're here. Good to see you, Gail. Okay. I'll tell you what. Thinking about, and this is where we're going to be going today with our little talk. Thinking about the current state of affairs throughout the world, but certainly here in the States, and we've got many people who tune in from across the pond in the UK. I'm thinking I have got to do something lighthearted. I spent most of my day yesterday doing real tedious work. I know some of you are into tedious work. Virginia's got her hand up. Virginia. All right, I'm going to get into my topic in a moment here, but let's get Virginia out here, and then we'll do something else. Hey, Virginia, I can't hear you.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just putting my hand up because I have some jokes.
Oh, please give us a joke. We could all use a joke, Virginia.
These are not committed to memory. I just Googled some Thanksgiving jokes. I'll give you some quick one-liners.
Thanksgiving coming up next week.
Right. Let's see. What did the turkey say to the turkey hunter on Thanksgiving Day? Quack, quack.
Oh, very good.
Okay, why did the farmer have to separate the chicken and the turkey? Because he sensed foul play.
Ah.
What happened to the turkey that got in a fight? Oh, didn't you hear? He got the stuffing knocked out of him. And last, but there's many. Why shouldn't you sit next to a turkey at dinner? Because he will gobble it all up.
Ah, good stuff. Good clean jokes for kids as well.
Yeah, I love the internet.
Children, gather them around. Speaking of, thank you, Virginia. Thank you for that lightheartedness. Speaking of children and gatherings and giving thanks, which is happening here in the United States, whether some governors like it or not, that's going to be happening this Thursday coming up. And one of the reasons that this has become such a big holiday in the States, a lot of people don't know this. In fact, I think I'll do I might actually shoot a YouTube video about this because it's a pretty important thing. But when the Pilgrims first settled, Plymouth Rock and the story of the Mayflower and all this, they were basically communists, right? They were doing a commune, and that was how they kind of ran it, and they pretty much all starved to death. Most of them died, right? There's some really bad winters. They ate their seed crop. It was a disaster. If you go back in the archives, you can see historically. And then, they put in this kind of thing where, all right, you do your thing. Here's your property. Go and produce. And they produced huge bounty, right? So the more self-reliant capitalistic approach, like huge harvest, that worked, right? And you could trade with each other, right? Here, you got this, you got that. And so they all gave thanks. We figured out how to do this. This colony works now. We're not starving to death. That's how Thanksgiving occurred. A lot of people don't know that, but I'll enlighten people on that more on my YouTube channel, I think, this week. But back to what I was thinking about as far as or my topic for today, what was coming up for me, having to do with being grateful and being lighthearted. And let me introduce one other thing, knowing where you're going. I know we've talked about this before. In fact, I believe we started our week this week with the idea of, my goodness, what did I talk about on Monday? I never know what's going to come out of my mouth until I hear it. And then once I hear it, I'm on to the next thing. So on Monday, we talked about, let me just go ahead and pull up the members site here real quick, because, oh, go ahead. You have your hand up? Somebody's got their hand up? No? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And for those of you who are just watching on the interwebs and you're not actually a member yet, you deserve to be a member. There's a whole lot in here. We've got a whole menu of live sessions that we do, book studies, brand building, group meditations. My goodness, we had Tech Talk with Ego at 5 o'clock in the morning, my time. Ego, a nod to you as always. Ego live from Qatar. I learned how to pronounce the title of that country right now. So yes, we're all over the world. But our general session on Monday was, who are your role models? That's right. That's what we talked about. That's good stuff. So it kind of is a play off of that. And I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction with it here, because I think it's very instructive for me to remind myself of what I've done to make big advances in my life. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that my great breakthroughs, my big advances have never been just something I did on my own. And on Monday, we talked about role models and having people we can model or emulate, and hopefully save ourselves some time, right? What's the value of mentoring, right? Here's someone who's walked that path longer than you have, and now they could say, here's how the path goes. Come with me, we're going to walk this path. What's the value of actively, because they're not on the playing field, you are, and they could say, oh, I see what you can't see because you're on the field, I'm kind of above the field, right? So you can get an objective view. You can get tutelage, right? You can get counsel from people who are emotionally detached. And in some cases, in many cases, especially if you're choosing the right environment, you can get guidance from people who have gone further down that path as you. They're at the top of the mountain. You're not at the top of the mountain yet, but you'd like to be. And they are not only guiding you to getting to the top of the mountain, but they are an example, yes, a demonstration that it is in fact possible. And for a lot of times in my life, when I look at the equation, I wrote about this in chapter 3 or 4 of my first book, my sort of success formula, where I talked about how, quite obviously, success requires action. Duh, right? Now, I guess there are some people who would argue with that. I think that's self-evident, but success requires action. Okay, so if we can all agree on that, well, then action requires motivation, right? Willingness to act, right? Grab a dictionary, right? So that's motivation, willingness to act. Okay, great. So when I think about why I became successful, to whatever degree I have, in whatever areas of life I have, it's because I took action, and I took action because I was motivated. But why was I motivated? Why are some people seemingly not motivated? I guess we could argue that too, but I would say that the reason I was motivated is because I believed, yes, I believed that I could, right? If someone felt like this goal, this ideal scenario is out of reach, well, why bother, right? That's apathy. That's not motivation at all. Why bother lifting a finger? There's no use. I can't have. That's not a very good condition to walk around in. Can't have. What kind of self-talk is that? So I believed, well, why didn't these others believe. I was looking back into my past, and having grown up on the streets of New Jersey and underprivileged, troubled youth, and blah blah blah. Here's all my disadvantages or advantages, depending on how you look at them. But I was thinking, why did I lift myself up out of the gutter? And these other people, if I can even find them, like on Facebook or something, some of them are dead, of course, but some of them are just as bad or worse off than they were when we were adolescents, right? And that's the ones I could even find. So why me? Why did I pull myself up by my bootstraps? Why did I believe? And it's because I sought evidence. Evidence. Yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Look, this isn't the totality of life. They're getting a better result than me. That person, that mentor, that coach, that individual, right, who showed up in my life, they may not even know they're mentoring me. They may not even know who I am, but I see it. Because I'm willing to look. Those who have eyes to see, let them see, right? So did these others, these less motivated or not motivated people, did they not see, or did they not choose to see? There's a that saying, many are called, few are chosen. I don't know, do with that what you will. I'm trying to reconcile that still. I've been working on it for a while, but I believe you choose yourself. You choose yourself. When we look at people, like whether it's role models or mentors or examples in our life, what was the quote from Ralph Emerson? In every act of genius, we recognize our own rejected thoughts. Yes. So when I look at an example, a demonstration, proof, if you will, that a better way or a better result can, in fact, does exist, I can either accept or reject that. I can either assimilate that and say, yes, that's for me too. Or I could say, yeah, you're special. You're special. I could never do that. In fact, some of the people that this is spectacular. Some of the people that I actually I did get in communication with, having contacted people from my past, see what's going on. Their knee-jerk reaction is, I could never be as successful as you. And I'm thinking, my goodness, did we not? We grew up on the same street corner, right? We could even see this with siblings, right? Where brothers or sisters, right? They go in very different directions. And I believe that at the core of it, it's what we accept or reject about our own potential, our own possibilities. And we can see, because we're not the first person to reach, these sort of goals, right? We can see that there's examples of other people who have reached these goals. We can either accept or reject that evidence is also potential. Our own rejected thoughts or our own accepted future reality. I'm thankful for people who are the first to do such amazing feats. A couple examples that come up for me are Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. They were the first to summit Mount Everest. Lots of people died trying to do that. Now lots of people have done it, right? They proved it could be done. There was no evidence prior to that. The evidence was nobody can do this. Well, they go ahead and they disabused the world of that erroneous belief, right? How about was it Roger Bannister? Roger Bannister. For years, perhaps centuries, people, men and women have tried to run a mile in under 4 minutes. I heard that the ancient Egyptians used to turn a lion loose to see if they can get the guy to run, faster. The guy got eaten, right? So the experts, right, said, oh no, the human cardiovascular system is not, capable of that. No one can run a mile in less than 4 minutes, right? And then this guy Roger Bannister, who wasn't even, I think, as the story goes, he wasn't even wearing like good gear, like he was wearing work boots or something. Anyway, he did it. And now, my goodness, if you can't run a mile in under 4 minutes, don't bother showing up, right? So, so thank you, Roger, Tenzing, Edmund, thank you for your demonstration. If not for you, you see, I needed evidence, right? A lot of these runners, these mountaineers, right? They needed evidence. So the question then for me is, can I provide that evidence? Can I, in other words, be the best version of myself so that I could show up as a role model, mentor, coach, an example to people I may not even know are looking, right? Can I do that? I think I damn well better. Otherwise, what? I'm just another victim of life. I'm part of the problem, not part of the solution, right? Can I be part of the solution? Hell yes. Now, what do I do? Back to my original idea. What have I done, and can I do again to remind myself of where I'm going? To be ever aware of the ideal, the vision of the ideal characteristics or goals or way of being. Um, this is something we can do in all different areas of life too. So what I'm about to tell you kind of goes along with the whole role model thing. In fact, what reminded me of this was I was listening to an interview of a guy who's been collecting some historical documents and artifacts and things from the early part or the formation of what is now known as the United States. And he said, you know what? Just look at these pictures of these great people, these patriots, these. I mean, how inspiring! Look at what this person did. He mentioned one of the guys who was helping prisoners, flee the concentration camps, right, during the Nazi Germany thing, right? And so he was talking teary-eyed about the strength of character and the resolve of these great people, whether they were Americans or from different parts of the world. And I was thinking, you know what? He said, gaze upon their faces. I was like, man, that's a strong suggestion. And I know some people have pictures, right? I mean, I've got pictures on my bookshelf that I've collected over the years, right? But also, you've got different specific goals in your life. Let's say, for example, in the area of wealth, okay, and financial ability, right? There's magazines, there's websites, there's things you can do to go look at examples of wealth. I think it was a few weeks ago I mentioned what was it? Nokia's Highline was called Virtu, right? And you could spend, I don't know, 10, 20, $50,000 on a bejeweled, phone. It doesn't do anything except make calls. It's not nearly as good as a typical iPhone or Samsung or whatever. But back in the day, right, you can go spend tens of thousands of dollars if you want to pull a piece of jewelry out of your purse and, have a conversation on the phone. Okay. And things like that, products like that were advertised in magazines like the Robb Report. Luxury lifestyle magazines. Oh, look at the beautiful properties, right? Here's the interior decorating magazine, right? How about in the area of fitness, right? There's a men's fitness magazine. There's Shape, right? I know is one that for ladies, right? Get in shape. And there's, I guess, bikini and bodybuilding and everything else. So anyway, what I did, rather than just keep talking, I pulled up a couple of pictures. And I just want to see, and you could see for yourself, what is your reaction to these pictures, right? There are, let me go ahead and, how am I going to do this? My goodness. All right, so here's what we're going to do. This is, I didn't have enough time to prepare this. I'm just going to share my whole desktop and we'll see how this goes. So there's that. Okay, who is this? This guy was just a monster of a personality. And it's John Adams. And he, man, if not for him and his resolve, I probably wouldn't be sitting here in what's called the United States today. Okay, so that guy, he definitely had an effect. Let's pull up another one here. Arnold, right? So I mentioned the whole bodybuilding thing. And again, I only had like 3 minutes to grab a few pictures off of DuckDuckGo. I was just looking at, just type in the search, and DuckDuckGo is my search engine of choice, by the way, because it doesn't track me and sell all my information to big tech. But anyway, here is arguably one of the greatest bodybuilders, male bodybuilders anyway, of all time. He popularized modern bodybuilding. Right. So there you go. And that's just him sitting there leaning on. I mean, you should see him in an actual pose down, like in a Mr. Olympia competition. Holy crap. Now, part of that is genetics. Okay. But genetics alone doesn't get you that body. That was a ton of work. Okay. So another example, do with that what you will. Here's one where we don't have an actual photograph because photography didn't exist. Right. So people have pictures or drawings, right? Like John Adams was also a painting, right? And depictions of their mentor, their ideal, personality, or in this case, right? This is a religious example, right? Here's Jesus. How do you feel when you look at these? Now, whether you're a Christian or not, okay, so we got people of all different faiths that tune into this, okay, but people have, the artwork of like Shiva, right, or Gautama Buddha. In fact, I got a little Buddha on my desk over here, right? So happy little Buddha statue. Here's another. All right. How do you feel when you look at that personality, that image? Is it a reminder of, of the greatness of man, or is it a reminder of being able and willing to express yourself, to take risks, to stand for something? That's what it says to me. Here's another from that same era. It's Rosa Parks, by the way, right? The lady on the bus, right? Pretty daring, pretty courageous. Look at her. Does that inspire you? I mean, pick your own pictures, right? Here's TJ. Man, what a genius. Oh my goodness. A lot of people have no idea this guy's work. And a lot of the, modern mass media depictions of some of the founders of the United States are completely wrong and just plain old friggin' toxic, like complete lies. Read about this guy's life. Holy crap. Here's some of his colleagues. You guys know one of my favorites. Oh, man. This guy was something. Yeah. Now notice these people aren't like in these shots, right? These are paintings, obviously. Okay, but paintings of what? Paintings of the person who's sitting there for the shot. They are they're not pop stars. They're not trying to be Lady Gaga or something, right? That is I guess some youth would be inspired by that. I want to be like Lady Gaga. Okay. But there's a difference between, as Steve Covey talked about, the personality ethic versus the character ethic. So personality, that's the facade, that's the veneer, that's the outward, the showbiz thing. Okay. When I think of Ben Franklin, I don't hear, screaming teenage girls in my mind. I hear wisdom, right? I hear, well, actually a bit of calm, silence, and serenity, and knowingness, understanding, and yes, compassion and vision and virtue, right? So when I think of that, it's a very different experience than a lot of the stuff that's shoved in our face these days. I think I got one more here. This is my favorite painting of our first president. So, and again, I'm American, so this is very patriotic for me. A lot of people not in the United States, do with this what you will, but imagine this guy who's basically, a regular common farmer guy doing his thing. And like he's asked, would you head up this whole movement? Here he is praying, kneeling in the snow, getting ready for battle. So this picture to me says courage. It's not necessarily pop culture or, glory or whatever. It is kind of solemn, in fact. Now, if you don't relate to these pictures, do what you want, right? Go. My point is to go find that which inspires you and to gaze upon the examples, the faces, the demonstrations, the evidence that others have already prepared for you. Keep that reminder always in your head. And so I downloaded these things. We're gonna stop sharing my screen, and when we're done with this broadcast, I'm not going to trash these things. I'll probably print them out and hang them all over my walls as reminders. Are they special? Here's the question: Is Rosa Parks special? Is George Washington special? These were commoners. In fact, in a lot of cases, they were hated. They were lied about. They were diminished in the public oratory. And now look, right? Well, at least in my opinion, right? They did something of use, right? They said they made a spectacle of themselves, which I've implored many of you to do. Go make a spectacle of yourself. If not you, then who? Right? Because I'll tell you, there's another guy who I could quote for you right now, which would be the exact opposite of seeking wisdom, seeking truth for yourself. I don't know who may know who said this. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. Anybody know who said that? I'm going to check the chat roll here. This is happening all the time. This is happening throughout human history. And I would argue that in modern times, it happens quite regularly. But even if we go back to what we were learning from Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, what did he say that the keystone in the arch of the entire philosophy, what did he say that was? The keystone in the arch of the entire philosophy. Autosuggestion. That which we tell ourselves, truth or lie, your choice. Truth or lie, that which we tell ourselves over and over again about ourselves. Mark got it. Goebbels. I got a picture of him too. I'll show it briefly. In case you don't know who Goebbels was. That was Joseph Goebbels, Minister of Propaganda for Adolf Hitler's Third Reich. Tell them over and over. Tell them the lie again and again and again, and they will believe it. The truth is the enemy of the state. That's some ugly shit right there. But it works, just like autosuggestion works, for good or for bad. So what responsibility do I now have to myself? What inner self-talk? What pictures am I looking at? What reality am I looking to create in my life? You see, we do have co-creative ability. We do have the power of choice. Ego reminded us of that this week. Was it Wednesday, right? In our general session, power of choice. What am I allowing myself to believe about myself and about the world around me? Which is why we start Fridays with, some lightheartedness, right? Sometimes we got a little bit of a dog show going on over here. We always got a joke or two, right? And I know, again, this is sort of a solemn topic, but I'm thinking right now that you can have, by getting serious for a moment and looking solemnly at, here are the choices that I'm making in terms of the autosuggestion, in terms of the either the external communication that I'm taking in, that I'm allowing in via my conscious mind, which has filters, right? I could say accept or reject, just like I can accept or reject those possibilities, those goals. Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Martin Luther King, I can accept or reject, those character traits, assimilate them or reject or neglect them, right? I can do whatever I want with that stuff. But I've got to know that I've got the power of choice over that, right? This isn't willy-nilly, like I'm just floating through the waves of life and whatever happens to me. No, that's victimhood, right? That's effect. That's not cause. So what part of this am I willing to be responsible for and say, you know what, I accept that communication. Let me look upon these reminders, and let me also look upon the antithesis of that which would lead me down the wrong path, that which would deceive me into believing that I'm less than what I actually am. And it doesn't have to be something as overt as, a state propagandist or mass media telling me what I should believe. It doesn't have to be as overt as that. It can be very covert, very subtle. In fact, most of it is. This hypnotism, this illusion of lack, limitation, that you're not caused, that you can't have an effect, that you are less than, that you are not special. All day, every day, which leads to the autosuggestion, the automatic self-suggestion, the self-talk, the inner dialogue of I can't. Well, here's all these people who said they can. In fact, even if they didn't say they could, they did anyway. I think George Washington kneeling in the snow was like, oh, confident, man, I'm going to go take on this. I'm completely outnumbered, outgunned, right? You know what his trick was? Resolve and communication. Communication won that. That's what it was. It was intelligence. It wasn't we got bigger guns than you. They didn't. Right? Why is this mastermind group? Why is our studies? Why is all of the things we do to broaden our own intellect and understanding? Why is that so valuable? Because man, if you don't got you got no shot. If you don't have the intelligence, and we can use that word multiple ways, and applied intelligence, people say knowledge is power. No, applied knowledge, we can call that wisdom, right? If you're not putting it to use, well, then you've really got no shot. And most of my life, I've failed to have integrity, like the people that I just showed you on the screen. Not Goebbels, the guy was a piece of shit. But I've failed to have integrity to these mentors, these role models, these shining examples of what's possible. Now, I don't have the genetics of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think he's a foot taller than me. Nor am I interested in, putting growth hormone in my body and training, 5 hours a day at the gym. But I like to be in shape. So, okay, if that's the extreme, if Arnold Schwarzenegger, or who would be like a female version of that? Excuse me. Who would be a female version of that? I don't know, the name Jenny Craig comes to mind. Maybe she's got virtue, maybe not. I don't know. I just remember she sells diet meals or something, or did 20 years ago. Anyway, take an image in your mind of the ideal, body. Okay, so here's where you're at now. Here would be like the ultimate, right? Mr. Olympia in this case, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, well, somewhere on that gradient is an improvement from where you're at now. Okay, so like Emile Coué said, every day and every way I'm getting better and better, right? So there's auto-suggestion. There's an affirmation. Every day and every way I'm getting better and better. There's Arnold. Here's my body, right? So let me go do 20 push-ups. Did I just go up the gradient? I did. Did I just get closer to that picture of Arnold? I did. Can I see it in the mirror in 15 seconds? Probably not. Okay, but I developed that habit because I keep the image of Arnold in this case, which may sound ridiculous to you. Okay, but I keep the image of the ideal in mind. I gaze upon the images of these greats in life, and I keep getting those reminders. You know what? Go ahead and hit the deck. Do 20 push-ups. Or in the case of business, right? Or again, whatever field it's in, find your ideal and keep reminding yourself that you can also be spectacular. Because if not you, then who? And you may not take it to that extreme, but that is an extreme. So if you're thinking your goals are unreachable, well, look at what they did. Look what they did. How big are your goals now? Oh, come on. Let's get on with it then. Let's get on with it. It's kind of like what my friend Grant Cardone talks about, the 10X principle, right? So you may not aspire to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but your fitness goals now, maybe 10X those, and you get halfway to like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? In other words, raise our standards. Raise our standards. The people who I showed you on the screen, as far as I'm concerned, had super high standards. What are your standards? Not your limits, your standards. Very different. Very different. I've been talking for 33 minutes. I'd like to hear you guys talk. I haven't seen much in the chat. Adrian, was this seismic? Was this to your liking, sir?
Yeah, John. I mean, you've certainly raised a lot of seismic issues, and I know in the chat it got a bit close to the bone, and I think everyone's apologizing to everyone else. No one wants to be political, but we obviously sometimes stray into political issues, so it is difficult. But I know we all respect each other's views, and we all love hearing each other's views too. So sorry if anyone was upset by that.
I missed it. I can't read and talk.
Don't worry, John. No, everyone was just expressing themselves on. You raised a lot of really controversial issues, I think, and thought-provoking issues. What it brought back to me, particularly when you started talking about the founding fathers, was the whole book club session we had recently about the mastery of procrastination and decision making. And I think that's the missing ingredient in this taking of action. The people that you put on the screen put themselves in a position where they couldn't go back. And someone mentioned Rosa Parks, I think it was Virginia, having decided just to sit in the same seat because there was no room to go further back. But then she crossed the Rubicon, as the Romans used to say. There was no going back at that point. And you reminded us that the person in charge of the meeting of the relevant meeting of the founding fathers locked the door and said, we're not getting out of here until we've taken a decision. And I think that's what's lacking for most of us, that we have the option not to take the decision or to sort of take it and then not act on it. And that's the ingredient we've got to try and cook up personally. Say, how do we put ourselves in this position where we force ourselves to act? We've got to get on with it, because if we don't do that, the danger is there's the sort of manana drift. We'll just put it off, won't do it today. It'll be okay. We'll get onto it soon. So, that brought back to mind all your comments in that session.
Thank you. And yeah, I guess I'll have to go back and review the chat, unless you're advised that I don't. Apparently, we've got a little bit of passion going on here, which I think is great. So let's go to Carlene. My friend Carlene is here with us. Hello, Carlene.
Hello, everyone. Wonderful session, John. I missed yesterday, so I'm very happy I can be part of today, Fun Friday. Actually, I just noticed something that I didn't know before. On the right-hand side of my screen, I don't know if I'm the only person that probably had no clue, but I discovered that if you scroll to the top, you can get a gallery view. So before, I used to sit in the meetings and only have like 5 people at the top of my screen. And now I have so many people. I'm like, what the hell? It's an early Christmas present. So I'm excited I get to see. So I'm like, how do I not know this was even possible? Like, so whoever doesn't know this, on the top right-hand side of your screen, you have a gallery view and you get much more people on your screen. So you guys are all gorgeous. And I feel completely stupid that I didn't know this worked. So anyway, what I wanted to say though, John, do you know what I love about this group? I'll tell you. A year ago, you would never catch me on any of this. You would never catch me sitting here having conversations like this. And what I have learned this year is that maybe, I'm trying to say this in the nicest way, but we need to have uncomfortable conversations. We're all grown. And I don't think that we should be tiptoeing around certain issues because someone might feel uncomfortable, or it's like the fact that we can talk about cancer and double mastectomies. How come no one cringes? Why is it that certain topics make us cringe? Why is it that when women speak about rape, people cringe? Why is there a taboo when it comes to certain conversations? Like, how old are we? I am going to be 40 very soon. And I want to be able to look back on my life and know that we didn't try to censor ourselves, mute ourselves, because this is where we have problems. If we don't have conversations that's going to make us uncomfortable, we're going to continue this spiral, I don't even know how to put this, but we can't become the problem. We can't become like the people in the past, because there are lots of things that happened throughout history where people sat there and did nothing, said nothing because they were worried about maybe offending someone, or you turn a blind eye because you didn't want to get involved because it's not my problem, it's nothing to do with me. And this is why we can look back on history and let it stand as a reminder of what we never want to happen again. Because I know when the Rwanda genocide was happening, I was alive and we saw those images on TV, and the world was asking, why isn't anyone getting involved? Why do we wait until bodies start floating into other territories before we go, oh, hang on, we have a problem? Why do we wait until bombs start dropping from the sky to think, oh, hang on, we got a problem? We wait until people become enemies, when we could have stopped conflict in the beginning. We could have nipped a bunch of problems from the start if people were only brave enough to stand up and say, that's not right, let's not do that. But we always think, let's isolate ourselves, it's nothing to do with me, nothing to see here. And eventually we're on the same piece of rock floating in space. What makes us think that because I'm not going to pay attention to what's happening in Iceland, it's not going to affect me sometime later on down the road? I have kids. My children are supposed to inherit this earth. My children are supposed to be able to live and prosper here and have the life I had. I had a great life in the Caribbean. I enjoy my life. I look back and think to myself, why was I complaining? Like, I used to get up in the morning and complain, and I look so stupid. Because when you think about the fact that we had everything was organic, everything was fresh, we complained because it wasn't Kool-Aid. It wasn't, we had to physically pick fruits and make juice. And I was like, oh, this is so long. But this was the way we should have been living. We're supposed to be living in a way that we preserve what we have. We take care of this planet. We look after each other. It has nothing to do with the fact that this person looks different than that person, or this person decides they're going to pray to this statue or that idol. If everyone respects each other and realizes that we're all here trying to make our life on this planet, then we won't have any problems. But the problem is the fact that we tend to think like, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to speak up. I don't want to get involved. And then we have issues where people then start feeling uncomfortable. People start feeling like after a while, it becomes normal to not say anything. And we should be able to understand that that is not normal. We're normalizing things that should not even be normal. And this is the conversation we need to be having. And I love the fact that you mentioned some of the heroes, John. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. I grew up looking at him, and he was the most amazing thing to us growing up in the 80s. So it's nice to see all these characters, and I might not know all of them. Like Benjamin Franklin does nothing for me. Thomas Jefferson does nothing for me, but that's okay because he does something for you. And I'm mad at you for that. So this is life. This is the beautiful thing about life. As long as we know we don't hurt each other and integrity is everything, we could never go wrong. We could never go wrong once integrity. If I have integrity, I could never offend anyone, because if I offend you, it has to be that I'm stepping up outside of the boundary of integrity. So once you keep yourself within the line to make sure that if I see something wrong, I'm going to speak on it. That's it. For you to be upset if I'm speaking on something wrong, something's wrong with you then. Because there's no way we can stick to the principles in life and offend anyone. If I'm being a person who's living by principles, then anyone who's upset by that's on them. That's not on me. And it's that simple. That's all I want to say.
Well, there you go. And with that, we'll end the meeting. Thank you, Carlene. We got a few more people to share as well. Thank you. And if you look into, I know you mentioned a couple of those people that you had no connection with, right? So, but you mentioned a bit about, the struggles between countries and different peoples and races and everything else. Thomas Jefferson is a guy you may want to look into. So you'll find some very interesting stuff that he was attempting to do at the founding of the United States to create rights for people and liberty. So thank you, Carlene, and well said. We got Virginia, Bill, and Julia. Hey, Virginia, come on down.
Okay, Carlene, I think like you do, which has often gotten me in trouble. Very much so, just outspoken. I think that I was Joan of Arc in a former life, and my daughter says that didn't turn out so well for her. However, can't help that. That's who we are. Unfortunately, Carlene, the reality is that there are leaders and there are followers. And if everyone would think like we do and be open and receptive to being involved and thinking and wanting to change, it would be a totally different world. The vast majority of people do not want to change. Remember the three kinds of people. There's those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that wonder what happened. So 2/3 of them are not making things happen. And they'd have to be like Rosa Parks, forced into a situation that they really didn't think on their way home, tired, they were going to have to start dealing with on there. And she was a person that would make things happen, obviously, because somebody else might have just gotten up and stood in the back of the bus on there. Also talking about earlier, I think John said something about our level of acceptance and something along that. I remember an old analogy or a metaphor where the father was going to bake some chocolate chip cookies, and he had his kids his teenagers coming in the room, and they were starting to smell really good, and he was taking them out of the oven and they looked beautiful, and they said, "Wow, Dad, when can we have one?" And he says, "Well, they're going to be cooled down in a little bit, but it takes a little while for the rabbit turds to cool down." And they said, "What do you mean rabbit turds?" He said, well, I didn't have any chocolate chips, so I just went out to the rabbits and grabbed those rabbit turds and put them in. But there's just a little bit in there, so you don't really mind. You won't even notice the rabbit turds in there. But at that point, they no longer wanted to eat the chocolate chip cookies. So that's just kind of how those things infiltrate our society, just a little bit at a time. Well, all right, it doesn't look bad. Let me try the rabbit turd, and then, oh, these aren't bad. Hey, Lex, we get worse and worse. So it's unfortunate that most people actually do not want to change. They do not want to become better. And that's why they're not in a mastermind group like we are. And although I agree about making things uncomfortable, if you were just talking to people that would want to make things change and would believe facts that are presented instead of clinging to an opinion that may not be based on anything factual, then it would be a great thing to discuss these uncomfortable topics. But the focus of our group really is to try to promote our e-commerce. And so I think it's just going to make enemies out of us if we continue to push people in ways that they don't want to be pushed. Sadly, that's how people are. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. And again, I'm a little bit vague as to what you're referring to, but because I didn't get to see the chat. But we're going to go to Bill next. And Virginia, look, you, Carlene, everyone who's here participating in this, you're some of the most valuable people in my life. There you go. Bill, and then Julia, and then Mark. Hey, Bill.
John, how are you? Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Great topic, great pictures. I love art. Don't matter who it's paintings of, but I love looking at art, trying to get the message from art. And funnily enough, I was out on my walk today, and I decided to pick up my shopping from way, 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 way down the hills, and had to haul myself all the way back up. So, noisy people, sorry about that.
Ringtone there.
About probably 2.5 to 3 stone in my kit bag, walking back up the hills, which was pretty damn not funny, let me tell you. But however, I did it. But all these thoughts that you have just hit on today came into my head today. One of the biggest things, and I think I'm the only person from Northern Ireland in this group, which is a controversial place in the least. It's so small, it's smaller than Yorkshire. It has less of a population than Yorkshire, but yet they seem to shout so loud that they need to be heard all over the world. Frankly, I don't want to listen to them anymore. I'd like to live back where Carlene grew up in Grenada. I'd be quite happy there. And I have been there once, and I did tell her this. I was amazed at the kids coming out in their starch white school uniforms from little tin huts. And they were so proud and so clean and so smart. I just thought, you look at the mucks that I have to grow up with, and they can hardly dress themselves, let alone anything else. But the thing that came into my head today is you have to want to be offended. You have to choose to be offended. It's not that's offensive. It's not offensive. You either open your eyes to the big bad world out there, and I've seen a lot of the big bad world, and there's lots of people in here have seen exactly the same as I've seen. Carlene mentioned Rwanda. You can mention the Balkans as well. Devastating, but we let it happen. We waited till it was far too late for people to take action. There were no leaders to do anything about either of those. Why? Probably because there was no interest for the West, I would suspect. But you do have to want to be offended. You can't, I mean, there's people in this sad little state that I live in are offended at the least thing that you could ever dream of. And it's annoying when all you want to do is probably live by the rules that John Lennon wrote down in Imagine. That's the way I'd like to live. No countries, no flags, no nothing. There is one planet. There isn't no planet B. We ain't going to Mars tomorrow with Elon Musk, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to be one of the first there. But for people to take action is a big thing, and there are leaders. We have to be careful which leaders we choose to listen to, because there's a lot of people out there can talk a good talk, but they can't walk a good walk. And the one thing I'll leave you with, and I did post this on Facebook some time ago, it was written on the side of a wall of a pub, a bar in Belfast. And it was quoted by a guy that turned from UVF terrorist to politician. He died, and I'll say sadly, because he did make a massive turnaround from what he had a previous life in. But one of the things that he kept quoting was, a nation who keeps its eye on the past is wise. A nation that keeps both eyes on the past is blind. And I shall leave you with that.
Thank you, sir. Great insights from Bill, as always. Sorry if you're hearing helicopters in my midst. I got my window open right now. Oh, we got a helicopter going past. We got Julia and Mark and Koila and Ivier. Wow, we got a full sharing group today. Julia.
I will keep mine short. John, I'm part of the reason that the chat blew up, because I asked that we keep it apolitical. There were some comments in the chat that were on both sides of the US political division, not overtly, but in things that were said. And maybe, as Carlene says, maybe we should be open to talking about things that make us uncomfortable. But the reason I come here isn't to talk about politics, it's to talk about self-improvement and other topics. And I may be the minority, but I just wanted you to know that that's what the discussion was blowing up about. And perhaps we can get your opinion on whether it's pertinent to be discussing US politics here. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. And no, we politics is super heated right now, and I certainly have a head full of information. And no, this is a personal development forum, and I deliberately did not put any current, present time people, despite whatever achievements they have had outside of politics. I didn't put any of them on the screen so as to not induce any other implied meanings or anything like that. If you guys want to do a special session and we can just have a conversation about politics, we certainly can. We won't broadcast that to the public. That'll be, a la carte. If you want to show up for that, we can have a conversation. But I do find, as you were indicating, Julia, that a lot of times discourse is not welcome in that area. Our way is the only way, even though you may have another fact or something. We don't want to look at a fact. Okay, well, now we're getting into closed-mindedness. And I think Carlene mentioned beautifully that I don't know if there's any virtue in that at all. How does me not being willing to look or have a conversation help me or you or reality? It makes no sense to me. Although that seems where a lot of our political climate has gone as of late. So, and that's all I'm going to say about it. And we're going to go back to Lieutenant Colonel Mark Riggle, and then we got Koila, and we got Ivier, and then I think we're going to wrap up. We may run a couple minutes over today, guys. Mark, you've got the floor.
Thanks, John. It won't take long, but just a number of the comments that were made today just made me think of something. I was, I don't know, I was about 13 years old, and as it happens for young boys, as they're growing up in that period of time, as they're moving through junior high school and those kind of testing years, I'm sure you've experienced it as well. I had my share of fights. Some I won, some I lost, and one in particular, I had a pretty good scathing, and I went home, and as I'm licking my wounds, my dad had come back from his work. He was a Air Force lieutenant colonel pilot at the time, and he sat me down. He wasn't mad or anything, and he just kind of looked at me, and he said, "Remember that." And he was a guy who had all these words of wisdom all the time. He would say these things, and I have a lot of respect for how he approached me in many things as I was getting into that age time frame. And he said, Mark, as long as there are two people on the planet, one will have to dominate and one will have to submit. That's the nature of man. And he left it at that. And I've kind of carried that message. Now, that is not necessarily a message of hope, but I look at that in this environment as well. And as much as I'd like to, especially with my background, believe that, actually, I think there's a lot of truth in what he had said to me, because that kind of goes on today. But I do believe the way Carlene believes too, that there's got to be some better ways to handle things. And actually, one of the reasons, and I'd say most of the time that I've talked to any of my fellow Marines, we didn't go in for political reasons or to do that. We were kind of the, as you've probably heard, we were the sheepdogs, guarding the hen house, so to speak, against the wolves. We had all come from backgrounds of various types that we felt like we were, the people who had to take a stand, hold the line, and be the in between, much like the people that you have mentioned today, and people that exist out there by the thousands that are doing the same thing and have done through history. And that was really my impetus. And I see this group, this family, in the same way. Everybody's making improvements. Everybody is improving, their self-confidence, their ability to take action, their ability to move forward and raise the bar. And I just and I think we're also in that position where we don't have to necessarily play the, who's going to dominate and who's going to submit. We're dominating our own lives, and they're in a good way, in a good sense, and moving forward in that regard to help others, still with the same, in my book, the proper impetus or reasoning on why we want to move forward and what we want. We want something better for ourselves and those people that we're around. And I think this is a great group that proves it every single day. I think if this group was running a country, we'd do a pretty damn good job, because we seem to have things down and we're able to work these things out. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. And again, I don't know where the whole political thing came from, but I will agree with you that if we had people of entrepreneurial mind offering guidance to larger and larger groups of people, that group, assuming they subscribe to the ideas and can execute with some integrity, like Carlene reminded us about, they would be pretty well off. Yeah, it's a very different conversation than chronic victimhood and whatever. Coila, over there on an island off the shore of Scotland. Hi, Coila. You're the only person on an island. So just like Bill is the only guy here from Northern Ireland, you're the only person on your island.
I am indeed. Yeah. Yeah. And yes, there's a couple of things to say. And the first one is, yay, Carlene. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And the next one is, I'm not entirely sure where the political thing came from, because what we had, as Nick has put in the chat not long ago, is a group of British people talking, just having a banter conversation after you'd mentioned propaganda and lies a la Goebbels, Goring, whichever one it was, Goebbels. And so there was no mention of politics at all, unless I missed something. Maybe I did, but I think it was a misunderstanding there. So I'm sorry if people have started to think that's all political. It wasn't. And then on the point of view of some of the stuff that Carlene said, and on a more political note, that we have to learn to talk to each other. We can't keep assuming we're 100% right all the time on both sides. You have to come to some agreement. And as Carlene said, there's wars and things that have happened all over the world because people won't speak to each other. People don't speak to each other early enough in order to stop conflicts. And most people don't want conflict. Most people want a peaceful life. That's what they want. Nobody wants to be in a war. Not even the people fighting it normally, just a few people at the top. And for Bill, there's a quote from another person who was considered a terrorist at one time. I'm not sure who he was referring to, but this one is not Irish. And he said, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite." And that was Nelson Mandela. And that is a beautiful quote. I wish we could do it, but we don't seem to be capable of it at the moment. Maybe we can learn to be capable of it at some point. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Coila. Great insights from you as always. And I think we're going to wrap up today with Ivy. And Ivy, are you going to remind us about the children's gifts?
That's exactly what I was going to do, John. So I wasn't going to comment on today's topic. I was just going to remind everyone, for everyone who sent their names in, who want to participate in buying a gift over the holidays for a JLSM child, thank you. For every JLSM member who has submitted the name and age of their child or grandchild, thank you. For anybody else who wants to be involved in any way, shape, or form, either to buy a gift for a child or to submit a child's name, please, please, please direct message me on Facebook Messenger, because that list is going to be published next Friday to give us time to reach out to the individual parents of said children and give us time to purchase the products, the presents, wrap them, and ship them out, because we don't want to miss the last delivery date to the various postal services wherever we're based. So next week, Friday, is cutoff. That's it. I'm going to publish the list, and that's it next week.
Okay, so Ivy, I'm on the Facebook group right now. Thank you to you, and of course to Evelyn, who manages all this stuff. And I'm just typing I'm in on that list.
I've put your name down already, John.
Oh, okay. So forgive me for not being as attentive as
I knew you were already in on it because you were supportive when we ran the idea past you. So I put your name down right up front.
Okay, very good. And then there's going to be some sort of a guide, right? So whatever
Yes.
the price limit is or whatever.
Yes, $10 or £10. That's it, limit. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Ivy, and thank you everyone for being a part of this this conversation of success. The takeaway from today's session can and should be, I think, to find ways to use the principle of autosuggestion. Reminders, external reminders, could be pictures of your mentor, your ideal personality, right? The ideal body, whatever, the successful business person, and to remind yourself of those characteristics, that shining example of here's how far we could take this, here's how far I could take this, and why not me, right? So pick your own images and make sure they're ones that you like. Don't cause you to want to fight or anything like that. You guys are
John,
awesome. Yes.
Have we mentioned Teresa's session at 4:30 Eastern time?
Right. That was
Sorry,
exactly
I didn't know if you'd
what I
remembered.
was going to do.
Sorry.
And now that you are doing that, you can proceed with doing that.
That's torn it. I knew I should have kept quiet.
No.
Integrative Nutrition, 4:30 Eastern time, US time with Therese. Don't miss it. It's always a brilliant session, and we get so much value in terms of taking care of ourselves. So, sorry, John. I thought we might have overlooked that one.
Oh no, we're going to get together again. You see, some mastermind groups meet once a week. We meet typically 3 times a day. So 4:30 p.m. Eastern, U.S. time, Integrative Nutrition with Therese, and then we're going to wrap up at 6 p.m. Be heard. I'm willing to listen to any ideas that you have on that session. So 6 p.m. Eastern, I will see you guys there. I'm going to end with a picture because I did pull it up. There was some talk before of our live session of the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, Cancun, Chichen Itza. I mentioned Xcaret. I found the picture of me swimming with the dolphin in Xcaret. So have some joy in your life and find ways to express it. Anyway, I'll leave you with that picture. You guys have a great day. I'll see you
Great
on the next
picture.
session. All right. Bye for now.